Today's episode was sponsored by Incogni. Previously on Knitting Time with Willie. I pulled my pants down and the doctor pulled out a syringe and injected it into my butt. Okay, so I'm on Intuitive, Crestor, Effexor, Stratera. That right there is where I grew up. And of course, I get all of my meds at the CVS on the corner of Lexington and 3rd. I feel like 40% of my life now is spent urinating, while the other 60% is spent feeling like I have to urinate and wondering how long I can wait before I have to get up and do it. And so I said, if that's not a dog, then the last 4 digits of my social security number aren't 8762. As I've just shown you, there is a lot of my personal data on the internet. And I like to be in control of it whenever I can, which is why I use Incogni. Your personal data is actually big business. If you've ever given it out online, there's a chance that a data broker has put it on their lists and sold it to whoever's willing to pay. This can then leave you vulnerable to spam emails, robocalls, and all sorts of other annoyances that make living in the modern world feel like a waking nightmare. Data brokers are required to take you off their lists if you ask them to, but there are so many of them and they can be so hard to track down that doing that on your own is damn near impossible. And that's where Incogni comes in. With Incogni, all you have to do is tell them a little bit about yourself and they do the rest for you. I've done it myself, and it really is that easy. Right now, Incogni is offering my viewers 60% off on an annual plan, so follow the link below and use code WillieMuse to start taking back your personal data today. I promise you, Incogni is the best way to fight data brokers, or my mother's maiden name isn't McDonald. I should probably stop saying stuff like that, huh? The other day, I was going about my business trying to get my work done when a very important question popped into my head. Was Elon Musk ever on the Big Bang Theory? I mean, he had to have been, right? That just kind of feels like something that must have happened. So I shut my laptop and went off to Google it. Then I remembered that I need my laptop to Google things, so I opened it back up again. Eventually, I found myself on the Wikipedia page for Elon Musk's filmography, where I learned that not only had he been on the Big Bang Theory, but he was also on an episode of Young Sheldon. Not entirely sure how that makes sense, but I'm about to find out. Because despite the depressing fact that Elon Musk's filmography is long enough that it apparently required its own Wikipedia page, the truth is that it's not that long. If I hustle, I could probably make my way through it in about a week. And since discussing the guy is a decent way to drum up engagement on the internet, I figured why not? Honestly, I think that it could be interesting. Given that he plays some version of himself in most of these appearances, this could be a way to track the evolution of his public image and maybe gain some insight into how he became the thing that he is today. Either that, or I'm going to end up wasting precious hours of my life watching a bunch of terrible movies. There's really no way to know until I do it. So yeah, I'm going to do it. Going in chronological order, the first movie on Musk's filmography is 2005's Thank You for Smoking. He was an executive producer on the film, and because of that, he also has a blink and you'll miss it cameo as a valet driver. If we're being honest, I blinked and missed it. I actually had to Google it after the movie in order to figure out where his scene was. And that makes sense. At the time of this movie's release, I don't think that anyone really knew who Elon Musk was. I honestly don't even know if this is a cameo so much as it is a cool thing that he got to do in exchange for shelling out part of the movie's budget, you know? Sort of like a take your billionaire to work kind of thing. Still, though his actual role in the movie is minuscule, Thank You for Smoking is an interesting jumping off point for Musk's filmography because in a lot of ways it does feel very telling. Based on what I know about Musk in 2024, it does not take very long to understand why he was interested in funding this thing. The movie follows a dude played by Aaron Eckhart who works as a spokesman for Big Tobacco. The plot is basically just him being politically incorrect for 2 hours as a way of increasing profits for a bunch of giant corporations, while also doing what he can to make sure that his ex-wife doesn't make their son hate him. Frankly, saying it like that, it starts to feel a little bit on the nose. Looking at it in the context of this video, it's honestly kinda hard not to view Thank You for Smoking as a sort of origin story for Elon. I feel like if someone were to make a film adaptation of his filmography, the scene would end with him pointing at Aaron Eckhart saying, "I don't want to be a valet anymore, I want to be him." I know that's terrible dialogue, but I imagine the movie adaptation of Elon Musk's filmography doesn't have a strong script, so. Of course, I don't actually think that's what happened. If there is any deeper reason he financed this movie beyond the fact that he was rich and he thought it would be cool to finance a movie, then my guess is that he was just drawn to the anti-PC-ness of it. PC-ness. Sounds like penis. Thank You for Smoking is very much the sort of movie that makes people like Elon Musk say, "You couldn't make that today," even though you very easily could. I actually feel like there are a lot of movies like it still being made. Frankly, it's kind of just a comedic take on the Joker. It's a movie that glorifies a villain and does what it can to make you come around to their way of thinking by the end. I don't think that either film really wants you to agree with the villains, although I might be giving Joker more credit than it deserves there. Rather, I think the point of movies like this is to make people walk out of the theater and wonder like, what does it say about the world that that guy kinda had a point? And yeah, I think that you absolutely could make Thank You for Smoking today for the simple fact that it's pretty good. I actually like this movie a lot. I don't know that I ended up agreeing with its message, but I do think that it got its message across in a way that was cogent and, more importantly, entertaining, which ultimately is the only thing that matters. I feel like if you ask these sorts of people why they're so hellbent on fighting PC culture, they'll inevitably point to people like Lenny Bruce and George Carlin in a way that makes me think that they think they're continuing the legacy of those two men, which they're super not. What made them so great wasn't the fact that they were being politically incorrect. It's that they actually had valid points to make, and they said them even though they deviated from what was acceptable at the time. Not only that, but they were willing to say that shit even in the face of some pretty scary consequences. Elon Musk, on the other hand, has just removed publicly visible likes from Twitter because he's worried people might feel judged for liking edgy content. When people complain about PC culture, they're not mad that they're not allowed to say whatever they want because, well, ultimately they are allowed to say whatever they want. Rather, the thing they're mad about is the fact that others are mad, and I don't think that people like Musk know how to handle that. I said before, I really don't think that Thank You for Smoking is Musk's origin story, but that said, I do think there's a solid chance that when he gets in front of a camera and starts complaining about the woke mind virus, he thinks that he's Aaron Eckhart. And if that's the case, then I don't think he fully understood his own movie. The most fundamental trait of that character is the fact that he could not give less of a shit if other people like him. And I don't think that I could say the same thing about Elon. Okay, I'm gonna be upfront here and say that I did not actually watch Iron Man 2 for the purposes of this video, because not only have I already seen that movie a bunch of times, but I also already have a lot of thoughts on Musk's cameo. Musk is very hard to say in the possessive. Elon's cameo. People talk a lot about how far the MCU has fallen, but this is only its third movie, and I still say that this scene remains the lowest point of the entire series, because it is dumb as hell. And that's before I even factor my own personal feelings about Musk into it. Just looking at the movie objectively, this cameo is terrible. I'm not gonna risk dealing with copyright stuff by showing you the actual clip, but in case you guys have never seen Iron Man 2, this is what happens. Iron Man walks into a party where he meets Elon Musk. The two shake hands, and Iron Man tells Musk those Merlin engines are fantastic. To which Musk replies, "Thank you, I've got an idea for an electric jet." And then Tony responds, "You do? Then we'll make it work," and walks away. That is literally all that happens, and it fills me with rage just to think about it. Because here's the thing. In the world of the MCU, Elon Musk is less than dog shit. We're talking about a universe where Tony Stark was able to build a nuclear-powered mech suit that could take down an entire army in a cave. From a box of scraps. He discovers a new element, he creates an AI powerful enough to destroy the world, and in the last movie, he casually invents time travel. I don't know what Merlin engines are, but I guarantee you that they are not at all impressive compared to any one of those things I just listed. Especially because I don't think that this movie version of Elon Musk made them on his own. When he mentions his idea for an electric jet, Tony Stark says he'll make it happen. So like, even in this imagined scenario, Elon Musk isn't inventing anything. And if that is the case, then what is he even adding here? Just like the idea of an electric jet? Because that's not that impressive. I feel like I could make the case that I have also had an idea for an electric jet. I feel like anyone who has ever read anything about climate change has had the passing thought like, why can't we make those things electric? That Tony Stark, a man who I cannot stress enough, invented time travel in his living room, needed Elon Musk in order to come up with the idea of an electric jet is... I don't know, it makes me madder to think about than I should probably get at a Marvel movie. So, there is no logical reason that Elon Musk should be in Iron Man 2, but that said, I do kinda get why he is. When the original Iron Man came out, I remember a lot of people calling Musk the real-life Tony Stark, to the point that I feel like the case could be made that a lot of his fame can be traced back to that first movie. There was no way in hell that the media wasn't going to go looking for the real Iron Man, and I think that Elon managed to grab that mantle for himself and grow his notoriety. Which is insane, because he ain't Iron Man. And that has nothing to do with his contributions to science, because frankly, I don't know what those are enough to comment on them one way or another. I'm just talking about on a personal level. Tony Stark is cool, confident, funny, charismatic. The list goes on. And Elon Musk is not a single one of those things. Based solely on this scene, I describe him as having massive little brother energy. He moves his body like he's still not entirely sure how limbs work, and I know it was probably a costume designer, but the way he's wearing it makes it look like that suit was picked out for him by his mom. Elon Musk is not Tony Stark, but I think that he bought into his own hype and started thinking that maybe he could be. I don't know if it was this cameo or something else, but somewhere along the way, he started trying to portray himself as the world's coolest scientist, and I think that's how he ended up as the clusterfuck of a human being that he is today. I fucking love this movie. Well, I love the first 99% of it. The last minute or so was so unbelievably terrible that even though I was having a great time up until that point, I kind of came away resenting this thing a little bit. And incidentally, the final part that I hated also happened to be Elon Musk's cameo, so yeah, that actually works out great for the purposes of this video. I could try to give you an in-depth plot summary of Machete Kills, but honestly, I feel like the title says it all. Danny Trejo plays a guy named Machete who kills a bunch of people. It's awesome. The person he wants to kill the most is an evil inventor played by Mel Gibson, but he escapes to space before Machete can do that. It seems all hope is lost for our protagonist until the President of the United States comes to him and says that he can get him into space, but by giving him access to a SpaceX ship. Machete then shakes hands with Elon, who says something along the lines of "go get that bastard," and they set up a sequel that I can't imagine will ever actually happen. And truly, I don't know how to explain it, but I have never seen the win get taken out of a movie's sales as quickly as it does here. It's just so clearly product placement. Which is weird because, like, why did he think that the best way to get the word out about his billion-dollar space company was with Machete 2? The cameo is so conspicuous that I feel like the case could be made that it's meant as a knowing wink at paid promotion, but if that is what's going on here, then I don't think that Elon Musk realizes it. It feels pretty clear that his goal here was to make SpaceX, and by extension himself, look good by having them seem like this badass company that helps Machete save the day. Which is really weird the more I think about it. Because this movie is extremely campy. Actually, is it still called camp if it's intended for straight dudes? Not a single part of this movie feels like it was meant to be taken seriously. So to use the last moment of it to try and tell people how cool your business is feels counterintuitive to the point that it makes me feel like Elon Musk doesn't really get the movie he's in. And yeah, I wish I had something deeper to say about this one, but really it just feels like another example of him inserting himself into something he doesn't really understand and ruining it for the rest of us. Okay, I totally get why Elon Musk made a cameo in this movie, but that said, it's kind of psychotic that Elon Musk made a cameo in this movie. Transcendence follows a couple of married scientists played by Rebecca Hall and Johnny Depp who are on the cutting edge of artificial intelligence. When an anti-technology activist shoots Johnny Depp's character with a radioactive bullet, he's given only a few weeks to live, so in an effort to keep him alive, Rebecca Hall's character uploads his consciousness into a computer. This works, but it leads to Johnny Depp kind of just becoming the singularity and doing something, I think. I don't know. I didn't really understand what his plan was, but it seemed like he was up to no good. And yeah, the plot of this movie seems to vaguely relate to what I understand about Neuralink, so I get why they'd plop Elon in there. His cameo is a brief shot of him in the audience of a lecture about the benefits of AI, which does seem like a logical place for him to be. That said though, it's weird that he'd seemingly give this movie his stamp of approval by appearing in it, because though it's about Neuralink is kind of the bad guy. The message of this movie, as I understand it, is that Johnny Depp should not have done what he does. He loses his humanity, creates this hive mind by implanting a bunch of little nano-Neuralinks into people's brains, and eventually he becomes so powerful that the only way to stop him is to shut down the internet and plunge humanity into a bit of a dark age. Musk appearing in this is kind of like if J. Robert Oppenheimer appeared in Godzilla. Like, I see the relationship there, but it's not really a relationship I'd think you'd want to celebrate. Either he agrees with this Film Central message, but he decided to push forward with Neuralink anyway, or he doesn't, but he's still willing to support something that trashes his life's work if it means he gets to see himself looking smart on the big screen. And I honestly don't know which one is worse. This one hurt me. I love The Simpsons, and those early seasons were so integral to my childhood that I don't think there's anything in the world that could ever make me stop loving The Simpsons. That said though, this episode did come dangerously close. If anyone else had released this, I would call it propaganda, plain and simple. It begins with Elon Musk descending from the heavens in a one-man spaceship. Lisa instantly recognizes him as the Earth's greatest living inventor, and then he follows Homer into work for reasons that I don't remember and won't figure out because I refuse to ever go back and watch this episode again. On their commute, Elon realizes that the dumb things Homer says give him brilliant ideas for inventions, and the two of them end up developing a friendship. At the power plant, Musk impresses Mr. Burns, who then decides to hire him, and he's able to do it because according to this version of the billionaire, he doesn't care about money, he just wants to make the world a better place. This leads to Elon revolutionizing Springfield, which seems great, but his amazing Earth-saving ideas come at the cost of big business, and with profits down, Mr. Burns lays off a bunch of people. Eventually, Homer decides that the world's not ready for someone as forward-thinking as Elon, and he ends their friendship. Musk then gets into his ship and flies off into space as Starman by David Bowie plays. There's also some subplot at the beginning with a bald eagle or some shit, I don't know. And yeah, this episode was really weird because I honestly don't know what the point of it is, if not just to blow smoke up Elon Musk's ass. There are a few jokes at his expense, but most of them are more about him being autistic and not really about him as a person. And actually, even those jokes have an air of reverence to them. The subtext kind of feels like the reason he's bad at human interaction and doesn't show a lot of emotion is because he's some sort of advanced being who's operating on a higher level than the normals. And I'll give Elon the benefit of the doubt here and say that none of this was his idea, this is just what the writers thought of him. It still feels weird to me that he went along with it. Granted, I'm very bad at taking compliments, but for him to agree to go on national television and allow himself to be jerked off by America's favorite cartoon family for 23 minutes suggests to me that Musk must have a very high opinion of himself. And given that most of the things that The Simpsons say about him in this episode did not age particularly well, I don't think that opinion is earned. The one that started it all. Like I said, this video was born from the fact that something in my bones told me that Elon Musk had been on an episode of Big Bang Theory because, well, that just kind of made sense to me. I know that Big Bang Theory had a lot of celebrity cameos, and it felt natural to me that Musk would have been one of them because I think that they both appeal to a lot of the same people. I hope this doesn't sound too mean, but I think that Elon Musk and the Big Bang Theory are both a dumb person's idea of what smart people are. And for the record, I don't mean that as an insult to the Big Bang Theory. I am actually a weird defender of that show. I never go out of my way to watch it, but I think it's a perfectly fine version of what it was, and if it had come out closer to the golden age of multicam sitcoms, I think it would be held in a lot higher regard than it is today. Obviously, not everyone feels the same way as me though, which is why the more I think about it, the more I actually think it's kind of weird that Elon appeared on The Big Bang Theory, because everything I know about him leads me to believe that he's a bit of a comedy snob. And honestly, even if The Big Bang Theory was considered cool, it still feels weird to me that Elon would be able to sit through an episode without wanting to tear his hair out. Like, my mom is a doctor, and every time I watch a medical show with her, she shouts at the screen like every 2 seconds because of how unrealistic it is. I'm not a scientist, but even I can tell that the science on The Big Bang Theory is extremely oversimplified in a way that I would imagine must sound like nails on a chalkboard to a great scientific mind like Musk. Provided he is a great scientific mind. Of course, you don't have to like a show to be on it, and it probably doesn't hurt matters that they spend the entire runtime of his cameo kissing his ass. The storyline he's in revolves around some members of the Bang Gang volunteering at a soup kitchen on Thanksgiving. The littlest one is dismayed when the other 3 start working front of house, leaving him alone in the kitchen to do dishes. But things turn around for him once Musk arrives. He is also working at the soup kitchen, but he got kicked off of the buffet for being too generous with his portions, so they moved him to dish duty. And yeah, after that, the little one kind of just fawns over him for a couple of minutes, and that's it. We never see or hear from Musk again. As with the Simpsons episode, the only point of this seems to be to build Musk up, although I would argue that this one is almost worse than the Simpsons episode, because at least the Simpsons episode gave him an arc. Here he kind of just comes out and stands there so we can hear about how great he is. When you look at these 2 episodes together, it starts to feel pretty clear that that last cameo wasn't a fluke. Musk is doing these appearances because he has a very clear and calculated image of himself that he wants to project to the world. Both talk about how impressive he is, both portray him as extremely altruistic, and both talk about his businesses like they're the second coming of Christ. The sense I get after watching these is that Musk wants people to look at him and see this Superman who is using his once-in-a-lifetime genius and amazing business acumen to make the world a better place. Not sure if that one really panned out for him. The next movie I watched was Trollz, with a Z. And this one wasn't on Elon's Filmography wiki, but it was on his IMDb page, so I figured I'd watch it just to make sure I had all my bases covered. And yeah, this certainly was a movie. Actually, no, I'm not so sure that it was. Based on the one fact on its IMDb trivia section, this movie was released as a mockbuster meant to capitalize off of the release of Trollz with an S, which I guess explains why the poster says that this movie's title is Trollland. They were clearly trying their best to make this seem as legitimate as possible by casting as many celebrities as they could, which is how they ended up with the voice talents of Jerry O'Connell, Dick Van Dyke, and Chris Daughtry from American Idol. I think their most interesting casting choice is their protagonist Fen, because he's meant to be this plucky young troll, but he's voiced by Ja Rule, so he sounds like this.
No, I didn't, Jarvik, and I'm not competing this year either.
One person conspicuously absent from this movie is Elon Musk. He's super not in this thing, and I don't know why IMDb said that he was. They list him as background troll, so my best guess is that somebody saw this guy and got confused because, well, I don't not see the resemblance. But yeah, no Elon Musk here. This was just a very strange way to waste an hour and a half of my life. On his filmography, it says that Musk was in 3 episodes of South Park, which didn't sound too bad to me. Each one is about 23 minutes, so altogether it would end up being a little bit less than a single movie. Unfortunately, when I went to watch the episodes, I realized that they were in one of those weird seasons of South Park where everything was serialized, and in order to actually make sense of anything, I would actually need to binge 10 episodes in one night, which was a lot. I figured it would be worth it though. So far, all of his appearances have been kind of the same, and I'm running out of polite ways to say that Musk got his balls sucked on screen. This was South Park though. It had to be different. I don't think that there is a single celebrity on Earth that they have not viciously shit on before. So I sat through the season and was actually kind of excited because it was very thematically linked to a lot of the things that you think about when you think about Elon Musk nowadays. The whole thing was basically a long meditation on the role that internet culture, and more specifically trolling, plays in the modern world. And while I wouldn't say that I agree with everything it said, it made some interesting points and I did laugh quite a few times. Elon Musk doesn't appear until the last 3 episodes, so by the time he came around, my hopes were pretty high. I thought like, okay, they're going to give me some interesting shit to discuss in my videos, and more importantly, they're going to roast his ass. Unfortunately, I was wrong on both counts. Musk is brought into the story when Denmark threatens to release everyone's internet history, so Cartman goes to SpaceX in an effort to flee to Mars so his girlfriend doesn't find out that he hated the all-female Ghostbusters reboot. It's funny, but it is of its time. And yeah, I've never seen South Park be this nice to a celebrity before. As with The Simpsons and The Big Bang Theory, he is portrayed as a genius inventor who is leading humanity into the future. In his first scene, he gives Cartman a tour of his factory, and I genuinely couldn't tell if they were doing a Willy Wonka parody, or if they were just so over the top with how genius his ideas are that it seemed that they were. They do kind of make fun of him by calling him stupid a couple of times, but they do it in a way that feels more like making fun of anyone who would think that Elon Musk is stupid. One moment in particular really stuck out to me because it felt extremely out of place in an episode of South Park. In it, Kyle calls Mr. Garrison and asks, is there a way the government could connect to SpaceX? Mr. Garrison replies, SpaceX? What the fuck is that? To which Kyle responds, you know, the company trying to make new forms of energy, create new jobs, and get mankind to Mars. And then Mr. Garrison says, okay, that's dumb, but go on. I can't say this for sure, but it kind of feels to me like the show is doing its best to preserve its fuck 'em all attitude, while operating under strict orders to not say anything bad about Musk. And I don't know why that would be. I guess the obvious answer is that he just threw a bunch of money at the situation, but like, you know who already has a bunch of money? The creators of South Park, and they do not hesitate to tell people to fuck themselves when it comes to preserving their own artistic vision. I left this season feeling kind of baffled as to how Elon managed to pull this off, and it kind of made me start to believe that he is a genius. But like not a genius at science at stuff. I think he's a genius at getting people to think he's a genius. The movie is about a tech billionaire, and Elon Musk appears as a guest at his party because at this point in time he was shorthand for impressive tech billionaire. I spent $4 and watched a 2-hour movie to make that observation. Okay, so I spent a week at the beach since last time I recorded one of these, and I forgot my razor, so that's why this is the way that it is. Also, I'm pretty sure I got a cold while I was there, so I might sound a little nasalier than usual. And yeah, full disclosure, he was apparently in 6 episodes of Mars, but I only watched 1. It was very boring, and I feel like I got the gist. And truth told, I'm not even sure I should be watching this one for this video. My plan was to only do things where he's credited as an actor, because there are a lot of things where he appears as himself in an interview, and if I had to watch all of those, I'd probably want to, well, do something to myself that I'm not allowed to say on YouTube. But the Wikipedia page had him listed as an actor on Mars, so I watched an episode. And I actually think that his part is just interviews. Highly choreographed interviews to be sure, but interviews nonetheless. That said though, I do get where the confusion comes from, because the show is kinda a hybrid of fact and fiction. One half is set in the future, and tells the fictional story of the first journey to Mars in a way that seems like an attempt to be as scientifically accurate as possible. The other half is set in 2016 and follows the real-world innovators who are working to make the fictional half of the show a reality. And by real-world innovators, I mostly mean Elon Musk. As with everything else I've watched for this video, the show fawns over Musk. Only this time it feels worse somehow because it's real. Large chunks of this episode are just Musk on screen by himself being framed like a superhero. So rather than watching a character be blown away by his mere presence, you kinda become a Howard Wolowitz in the real world. Howard Wolowitz is the name of the character in The Big Bang Theory. I looked it up. And maybe I'm just blinded by my own personal disdain for the guy, but a lot of this feels unearned. The way the show is set up, it kind of makes it feel like it's giving Elon credit for things that haven't happened yet. We keep cutting back and forth between hyper-realistic sci-fi and documentary in a way that kind of implies, like, here's what's going to happen, and this is the guy who you need to thank. And maybe that's true. When and if we do go to Mars, there's a very good chance that his contributions will turn out to be an extremely important part of the process. I just don't feel like I can say that with any conviction because, truth told, I'm still not entirely sure what his contributions actually are. One thing I've struggled a lot with while making this video is just trying to get a clear read on what exactly Elon Musk does. Coming into this, I thought he was kind of just a businessman, but he's referred to himself as an inventor in so many things that I couldn't not start to wonder, like, is he? I asked the internet, and based on the responses I got, I kind of think that he's like a producer of science. He has a vision of things that he wants, and then he pays people to make those things happen. And if that's the case, then whatever. That's not nothing, and if it leads to advancements, then good for him. But like, why call yourself an inventor? And that's honestly why I found Mars so interesting, because the blending of fact and fiction at play here feels weirdly apropos for Musk. Like I said, he very clearly has a vision of how he wants to be perceived, and the more I watch from him, the more confident I feel in saying that that vision doesn't always align with reality. And if that's the case, then maybe I should have watched more of his nonfiction appearances. Because I think that the truth is that he's always kind of an actor, even when he's just being himself. Sadly, I can no longer say that I've never seen an episode of Young Sheldon anymore. Although, if we're being honest, this wasn't nearly as bad as I was expecting it to be. As far as Musk's appearance, this was a lot more of the same. The episode revolves around young Sheldon obsessively trying to solve the equation for reusable rockets because a NASA engineer who visited his class implied that he wouldn't be able to do it. He does, of course, because he's young fucking Sheldon, and then he and his family drive to Dallas so that he can prove his genius to NASA. Eventually, the guy who visited his class concedes that not only did he solve it, but his math is so advanced that NASA doesn't have the technology to implement it at the time that this episode takes place. We then cut to a stinger set in 2016 showing a news story about how SpaceX landed their own reusable rocket, and then we see Elon Musk holding the journal that YS wrote his original proofs in, implying that he had used Sheldon's math. And I'll give young Sheldon this is the closest we've come to seeing a negative portrayal of Musk, because it does imply that he's secretly a fraud. That said though, in implying that he's a fraud, they're also implying that in real life he's a genius who single-handedly solved a groundbreaking math problem that at one point was considered way ahead of its time. So yeah, he's not exactly being roasted here. I didn't actually watch this one. I looked it up and he only appears in stock footage. That said, I decided to mention it here because it is listed on his filmography, and I know that a bunch of you assholes are gonna be like, "You said you watched every movie he appeared in, where's Men in Black International?" Fuck you. Elon Musk being on Rick and Morty kind of feels to me like peanut butter finally meeting jelly. If ever there was a Rick and Morty fan, it's Elon Musk, so I'm honestly kind of surprised that this didn't happen sooner. And full disclosure, this was the first full episode of the show that I ever saw. I've heard that it's very good, so I've tried watching the pilot like 12 times, but I don't like how the old guy keeps burping, so I've never made it through till the end. I actually enjoyed this though. It was really fun, and I did laugh a few times, including once at something that Musk said, which was certainly a first. The plot of the episode is purposefully convoluted, so I won't even try to summarize it. All I'll say is that it's meant to be a send-up of heist movies, so Elon Musk is brought in as a part of a Getting the Team Together parody. Although actually I'm saying Elon Musk, but here he's playing Elon Tusk, who's an alternate dimension version of the billionaire that is exactly the same in every way, only he has a weird pair of tusks coming out of his mouth. And I'm not gonna lie, this felt like a weird choice. I'm not sure why they didn't just make him Elon Musk. Like I said, I don't know much about this show, so I feel like it might possibly be the case that they do this a lot, and every celebrity who cameos ends up playing some alternate universe version of themselves. I could also see it being the case that this was all Musk's idea, because, well, the joke is dumb enough that he definitely could have come up with it himself. And a better YouTuber than myself would probably do the slightest bit of research to figure out what the deal is here, but that's not who I am, so instead I'm just gonna sit and wonder. That said though, looking at it through the lens of this video, it's hard not to view this as another calculated attempt at Elon doing his best to mold his own public perception. Although take what I'm about to say with a huge grain of salt, because after hours of poring over minute-long clips trying to find some deeper meaning in them, it's hard not to feel like I'm some conspiracy theorist standing in front of a corkboard with a lot of red string. Still, there is an in-universe reason given for why he's Elon Tusk here, and that's that regular Elon Musk doesn't work well in a group. And again, I might just be crazy, but this does feel like a more explicit continuation of certain vibes I've been getting from the last few cameos I've watched. The deeper I dig into Elon Musk's filmography, the more I start to think that he doesn't want people to think that he's just a superhuman who's using his once-in-a-lifetime genius to make the world a better place. He wants them to think that he's a superhuman who's using his once-in-a-lifetime genius to make the world a better place, all on his own. And if that's true, then it feels really weird to me, because while I still haven't managed to get a concrete answer as to what exactly Elon Musk does, the one thing that seems certain is that whatever it is, he does it as a part of a group. Having Rick and Morty work with Elon Tusk here feels like an attempt to try and paint Elon Musk as this lone wolf maverick, And if that's on purpose, then it's kind of fucked up because it means that he's actively trying to diminish the contributions of the people he works with for the sake of his own image. And if that is what he's doing, then this cameo is a bit of a failure because it doesn't make me think he's a superhuman who's using his once-in-a-lifetime genius to make the world a better place all on his own. It just makes me think that he's kind of a dick. Okay, I want to preface this by stating for the record that I truly believe that the cast and crew of SNL are funnier, smarter, and more talented than I could ever hope to be. But with that in mind, this was the worst thing that I've ever seen in my life. I feel like with SNL, the best sketch is usually the first one. And on this episode, it was something called Gen Z Hospital, which is exactly as infuriating as it sounds. This was also a Mother's Day special, apparently, which, truly don't think they could have picked a worse host to celebrate mothers with. As far as Musk is concerned, this episode follows a lot of his usual talking points. He's a genius, he's moving the world into the future, blah, blah, blah. I think that the most blatant example of this was the last sketch. Set in the Old West, it follows a cowboy named Elon, who has a suspiciously South African-sounding Southern accent and a lot of innovative ideas. I don't even know if this sketch was meant to be funny. It was kind of just a long-winded way of reminding the audience of all the innovations that Musk has to his name. One of the jokes here is that Elon rides an electric horse. And again, this is not to speak ill of the cast and crew of SNL. They're extremely funny, and I feel like if they had free reign to make whatever they wanted, they probably wouldn't have made this. It's my understanding that when the host comes on, they bring a long list of things that they do and don't want to talk about. So my hunch is that this episode is so terrible as a direct result of Musk's influence, because as with everything else I've watched with him in it, his appearance here seemed to be nothing more than an attempt to bolster his own image. Where this one differed for me, though, was that it actually kind of worked. This episode is the purest, most unfiltered look I've gotten at Musk thus far, and he's just such a fucking goober. He's got this big goofy smile and a very eager way about him, and I'd be lying if I said that I didn't find myself a little bit charmed at certain points in the night. Or at least I did. But then we got to a segment in Weekend Update where he seemingly flashed the white power symbol, and any affection I had for the guy dried up very quickly. And for the record, I don't know that that's actually what he was doing, but it looked enough like it that it reminded me of all the white nationalists he empowers, and it made me remember that no amount of nervous energy should ever soften my heart to this man. And what's fucked up about that is that I'm only on my toes about stuff like that because I have outside knowledge of Elon Musk. Had it not been for that, he probably could have gone up there and flashed a white power sign, and I wouldn't have given it a second thought. There was one moment in Elon's opening monologue that really stood out to me because I feel like it really encapsulates my biggest takeaway from making this video. In it, he says, "I'd first like to share with you my vision for the future. I believe in a renewable future. I believe that humanity must become a multi-planet spacefaring civilization. Those seem like exciting goals, don't they?" He then joked, "I think if I just posted that on Twitter, I'd be fine." And I think the truth is he's probably right about that. One of the things that I kept thinking throughout this entire process is that all of this probably would have worked on me. Honestly, I trust The Simpsons enough that that appearance alone probably would have been enough for me to assume that, yeah, Musk is this incredible once-in-a-lifetime inventor. And I think for a while that is what I thought. My opinion of the guy had always been neutral to positive. It really wasn't until he became a walking 4chan post that I even considered questioning if maybe he wasn't all he was cracked up to be. But had he been able to keep his public persona to a few carefully choreographed PR stunts, I probably would have kept believing that Elon Musk is the version of himself that he wants me to believe he is. Of course, he couldn't do that, and while I can't say for sure why that is, after watching all of his appearances, I have a hunch. And I think it's something that I already said. Back in the section about thank you for smoking, long before I even knew what direction this video was headed in, I said that I think that Elon Musk really just wants to be liked. And ultimately, I think that's all that this boils down to. I've been talking about all the cameos that Elon Musk has done for a while now, but I haven't yet stopped to reflect on how weird it is that these cameos even exist, because whether he's an inventor, a businessman, or something in between, there is no reason he needed a 3-episode arc on South Park. That said though, I think there's actually a simple explanation for why Elon Musk has appeared in a lot of things. And that's that he wanted to appear in a lot of things. For all of his talk about how important the things he does are, I don't really get the sense that he actually cares about the reasons why those things are important. I think he just wants to be the one to do them. He leads his life like someone who's expecting statues to be built in his honor. And everything he does feels like an attempt to add another line of text to the accompanying plaque. More than anything, I think he just wants to be adored, and weirdly I think that was his downfall, because he actually got what he wanted. In order to get footage to make this video, I had to look at a lot of old clips of him on YouTube. And looking at the comments was a stark reminder that not everyone feels the same way about Musk that I do. There are already a lot of people who seem like they're ready to build statues in his honor, and I think that once Musk figured that out, that was it for him. He started putting as much effort into being epic as he did into moving the world forward, because both things got him what he wanted. And not for nothing, but one seems way easier than the other. And once he started to chase the high he got from being the most shitpostingest billionaire around, it reminded a lot of us that he's more than just a few carefully selected talking points that he's been pushing about himself for years. He wanted to be an icon, but he blew it because he couldn't hide the fact that ultimately he's just a human. And honestly, I think that's a good thing. I genuinely don't think that any good can come from icons. One thing I realized while watching all of these cameos is just how easy it is to get people to believe things just by telling them that it's true. I heard Musk make going to Mars sound like the most important thing ever so many times that it genuinely took me a while to step out of it and remember that I don't give a fuck about Mars. I will never personally go there, and I think that the money Musk is spending to get us there would be put to better use by, like, I don't know, feeding people and shit. And you know, maybe history will prove me wrong on that one. I'm not Elon Musk. But if that's the case, then I feel like the accolades he seems to want will come naturally. If what he's doing is as important as he tells us it is, then he shouldn't have to tell us that it's important. And that's not just true of Musk. The way the world works nowadays, people often put personalities before actual actions. And I think that that's genuinely harmful for humanity as a whole. When people can just become icons, then the actual stuff they need to do in order to become icons becomes incidental. And that's the stuff that leads to actual innovation. I still don't know what Elon Musk does, but throughout this entire process, I couldn't shake the feeling that at one point it must have been something special. Because if there's one thing I can confidently say after watching a bunch of clips of him, is that he didn't get to where he is because of his winning personality. But if there was something great about him, I think that that's gone now. Whatever far-reaching aspirations he once had have taken a back seat, because nowadays I think that the only thing Elon Musk aspires to is being Elon Musk. And yeah, that's my video. Please like and subscribe and share and comment. And probably something else, I don't know. Oh, also, I feel like a lot of you are coming here from Drawfee to hear my joke, so here it is. What do you call a dog named Logic? A synonym of reason, beagle. I'm sorry you sat through an entire video to hear that, but hopefully you liked it, so. And if you did like it, you can consider supporting me on Patreon or by super thanksing me. And I think I do have some super thanks to super thanks back, but my phone died, so I will get you guys next time, I promise. But yeah, that's my video. Goodbye. Just kidding, there's still this part. I didn't do it last time, but I'm bringing it back because this is a sweater I haven't really posed in for a while. And also, people didn't really seem to care one way or the other, and you guys seemed to miss it, and then it didn't really help my video do that well. Anyway, for this one, I'm probably going to take a, it's going to be called, I watched everything in Elon Musk's filmography, or something. Is filmography a word people, know? I feel like I know it, but I wouldn't click on it, if that makes sense. I'll figure it out. But it's going to be why did I do this? So I'm kind of I have no idea why this is my life. I should have made better choices. I really should have. Remember what Tyra said, show your neck, so the difference between a model and an actress. Mama's a model. Oops, did I watch all of Elon Musk movies? That doesn't make much sense. And this one is kind of just my go-to now. I think why did I do that? And maybe I should be disgusted by him because he's disgusting. He really is. God. Yeah, he sucks. Anyway, so ooh. Ugh. This doesn't do well. This does well. This, I think this. I don't know. My thumbnails are all kind of get out of the same. Also, I hope my hair is not too weird. I was puffy, so I used a pomade. And now I'm worried it's weird in a different way. Why am I watching Elon Musk movies? Of them, I'd say Thank You for Smoking was good. Machete Kills was good. I like The Simpsons, but not that episode. The Rick and Morty episode was actually really good. SNL, Simpsons episode, borderline unwatchable. South Park was interesting. It was funny at points, but it was it was clearly more. They do string a lot of things together. Why am I still talking about this? I'm just gonna end it there. Why did I do this? I don't know. End of video.